Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Academic Advisor Forum, Advising Students for Career Readiness, Employer's Perspective. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center at Missouri State. I'm so happy to see so many people joining us today for this Advisor Forum. Uh, Again, for those of you from Missouri State University in attendance who wish to receive Master Advisor credit for today's session, please enter your name and your department in the chat feature so we can get that information recorded. I do want to mention that this advisor forum, since we are hosting it on Zoom, it is being recorded and it will be posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So if you feel as if others in your areas could benefit from the information being discussed today, please refer them to the Mo State Advising YouTube channel. We have one additional advisor forum for the spring semester. Technology and advising will be on Thursday, May 8th from 12 to 1 on Zoom. So please feel free to join us for that advisor forum again on Thursday, May 8th. Today's advisor forum, we actually have several members from community colleges and four-year institutions from across the state joining us. So at this time, I would like to introduce David Smith. David is the president of Makata and is also at Jefferson College. So David, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ross. And again, thank you for allowing us to join you in this meeting. This is our quarterly Munch and Makata meeting. And so I think we joined you last time we had a Munch and Makata as well. So again, we thank you. And thank you to Jenny Capps for setting this up for us. She is the Southwest Missouri representative on our board, and she does a marvelous job for us. I just want to make a couple of announcements to those of you who are Makata members. If you are an academic advisor, by the way, and you are not a member of Makata, you need to talk to me, because I'd be more than happy to talk to you about the benefits of being involved in such a wonderful group. Our next Munch and Makata is going to be sometime in early June. We haven't set a date quite yet, I don't think, but it's also going to be about technology and advising. So we would encourage you to join us there if you're a member of Makata, or if you're a fledgling member of Makata. And then our fall conference is on September 12th. It will be at Missouri State University. So we're really looking forward to joining all of you there. I can tell you that it will be a country and Western theme. That's about all I can tell you right now. We have not opened registration up yet, and we haven't opened requests for proposals for presentations yet, but we will get to that as soon as we possibly can. So anyway, without any further ado, thank you so much again, Ross, and hello to everybody who's here from Makata.
Yeah, thank you, David, and thanks for mentioning how Makata conference will be at Missouri State University on September 12th. We're really excited to have the opportunity to host the conference this year. I have been a Makata. That was actually the first association that I joined as an academic advisor 20 years ago. Makata has been a great organization, and I just echo what David said. And if you're not a member, please check out what exists for Makata members, the opportunities that exist, because the membership fee is very reasonable. So now, at this time, I would like to turn the Zoom room over to Margie Stewart. Margie has been a long-time member of the Missouri State University community and currently serves as the Associate Director of the Career Center. Margie?
Okay, thank you, Ross. Good afternoon, everyone. And as Ross mentioned, I serve as the Associate Director of Employer Engagement in the Career Center. And I'm really happy to facilitate today's session on career readiness from the employer's perspective. NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, they've done a lot of research on career development and career readiness, and they've identified 8 core competencies that best prepare students for workplace success and lifelong career management. And I'm going to just kind of quickly mention them. It's career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. And these competencies, they sometimes change over the years based on trends, but I think understanding these competencies and what employers are seeking when they hire interns and professional roles, it just better equips us to support our students in this career development process and as they transition into the workforce. So with that, I am pleased to introduce our panelists. We have Andrew Crane from Oak Ridge Institute of Science and Education, Dusty Bradish from O'Reilly Auto Parts, Stephanie Stivers from Mercy, and Whitley Beard from the Arc of the Ozarks. Thank you all for being here today to share your thoughts and perspectives on career readiness. I just want to mention before I turn it over to them, we do have, if you do have questions, feel free to enter them into the chat box. Ross said that he would be monitoring them. So I will kind of check in with you, Ross, every once in a while to see what questions we have. But at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our panelists. If they could introduce themselves just a little bit more in detail, share a little bit about your role in your organization, how you work with students and early career professionals, and feel free to include additional information as far as what student level do you usually interact with, as well as academic areas. So I'm going to start this off with Andrew, and then followed by Dusty, Stephanie, and Whitley. I'm going to kind of do it by alphabetical order of your names, just to kind of keep me organized and keep you organized. So it's for you, Andrew. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here and talking to this audience. I'm based down in Athens, Georgia. I work remotely for what we call the ORISE program, the Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education. But I'm a two-time alum of Missouri State. I studied history and anthropology, and then I did a master's in student affairs. So really fun always to visit campus, even and speak with folks even virtually. So I'll just share a little bit about the ORISE program to introduce myself. ORISE is we're a nonprofit organization. We're an asset of the Department of Energy. And essentially our role is federal workforce development, specifically for STEM talent. And ORISE manages a number of internship and fellowship programs on behalf of the federal government. So aside from the Department of Energy, there's over 26 different agencies that we work with. I specifically work with research programs in the Department of Defense, but everything that we do is what we call non-employment. They're internships, fellowships, and that can include undergraduates, graduate, master's and doctoral students, postdoctoral appointments. They can participate while they're in school and for up to 5 years after they graduate. So a lot of my comments will, of course, be tied to my role at ORISE. And previously, I was in career development for 10 years at the University of Georgia and had a lot of interactions with students and employers there. So look forward to sharing more with you all.
Thank you, Andrew. Dusty.
Yeah, so great to see everybody today. My name is Dusty Bradish, and I'm the Early Career Programs Manager at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Prior to that, I was at Missouri State, actually, similar to Andrew, got my master's in student affairs and higher education. I was at Missouri State in various roles for about 7 years, most recently as a career advisor. So took a lot of that experience in transition to O'Reilly, where most notably for today, the most impactful thing I've done so far is design and oversee the corporate internship program here at O'Reilly. So to just briefly talk about O'Reilly, because what strikes me day in, day out as I talk to students is even those here in Springfield don't quite understand the breadth of what O'Reilly has to offer. So I may be preaching to the choir here, but O'Reilly is an international company at this point. We have a presence in Canada, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. Fortune 500, actually Fortune 261 on that list. And just last year, revenue was just under $17 billion. And I always say I don't share that information to brag, but I just know that students, even in this area, don't quite grasp that that opportunity is 5 minutes from the Missouri State campus, and that we're very big on promote from within. So my comments today, of course, will be focused around my experience with the interns here. But as you all are working with students, and I'll talk more about the internship program throughout today, but keep this in mind because we're just down the road and a great place for students that may be wanting to hang out in the Springfield area.
Thank you, Dusty. Stephanie.
Yes, hi, I'm Stephanie Stivers. I am a recruiter for Mercy. I have been with Mercy since about 2014 in some different roles in our talent acquisition department. Recruiting is definitely my passion. I currently recruit for respiratory students, PT, OT, and speech, and have in the past done some imaging, lab, and social work. So kind of all over the allied health spectrum. So I'm excited to be here today and just to kind of share my perspective as a recruiter. I do a lot of work with interns. We have a few different programs at Mercy for our student respiratory therapists, with nursing as well as imaging. So do a lot of work with students, and they are amazing. I have had the privilege of coming to Missouri State for some career fairs, and it's just a wonderful place. The students really are amazing. So,
Thank you, Stephanie. And Whitley.
Yeah, my name's Whitley. I am with the Arc of the Ozarks. I am our recruiter of clinical talent. So I primarily work with individuals who might be speech, PT, OT, but we also have counseling services. So any licensed marriage family therapists, LPCs, LCSWs, we work with all of those students to bring them on for internships. Our clinical track is relatively new. We launched clinical services a few years back. So it's very, very new. So we're working on building our student program, but we do work with a lot of students. But we also do offer a lot of just a few positions that are entry level for students who are getting their feet in the door and wanting to build with the company. So mainly working with behavioral health. Excited to be here.
Thank you, Whitley. I'd like each of you to kind of just comment on the NACE top 8 career competencies. I'll kind of mention them again just real quickly. Career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, exclusion, help me, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technical skills. Yes, thank you, Ross, for just putting them up there. What I want to ask the panelists are what of those career competencies do you think are most important for the positions that you recruit for? And then are there other critical skills that are not mentioned that you actually seek? Any of you want to answer these in any order, that is perfectly fine.
I'm happy to kick us off here. The first part of my answer is super easy because we're very big on our culture values at O'Reilly, and 2 of the NACE competencies are matching 2 of our culture values. So professionalism and teamwork would be the 2 that jump out at us right away because, you know, if they're 1/12 of the core of our company, that's a pretty big deal to us. Outside of our culture values, I would point to communication. We may at some point talk deeper kind of about maybe like skill gaps that some students have, but communication is the one that I would stress because it seems to be ranked both by students and employers as kind of the most important one. And in my experience, that is also the case, but it is also where the largest gap exists between where students think they are and where we as employers perceive them to be. So whether verbal or written, there's a lot of learning to be done for a lot of fresh grads. And so when I'm talking to students, that's something that I place a lot of emphasis on.
Anyone else want to comment?
I'll say too that for Mercy, just kind of, they're all very important, but what I see as one of the top would be teamwork, just because in healthcare, you are really working in collaboration with all different positions and people. Everyone, we always say at Mercy, is just as vital to our mission. We can't get people help and care for them if we don't have wonderful people in housekeeping that are getting those rooms clean for us, right? So everyone really is very vital. We all work in collaboration together. So to be able to communicate, not just with your team, but across the ministry with other teams and other positions really is very, very important.
Thank you. Whitley or Andrew, do you want to comment for your organization?
Yeah, I'll just chime in to add, for ORISE, I think the technical skill set piece is really important. We're recruiting for STEM internships, as I mentioned, and so all the students who are coming in will be, looking to have some of those skills, or more importantly, to develop those skills during their internship. And we always stress to students that they're meant to be learning experiences, so they don't have to be experts or even have a lot of exposure, coming in. It's just having some basics that they can then use as a platform, because they'll have a mentor that will kind of teach them more. So beyond the technical pieces, which are kind of core to their internship experience, I agree. The communication piece, I think, is really important. And for some students that are coming in maybe for the first time, being in that lab setting or being in a lab of that scale and scope in terms of the projects they're working on, and that comes with the teamwork piece too. But a lot of the students are doing applied research when they're doing an ORISE internship, and so in addition to the research activities that they're doing, there's a communication element that's often embedded in their internship, in terms of they'll be able to participate in producing a publication or attending a conference or doing other kind of science communication things. And so there's kind of a twofold aspect of communication that's really important for a lot of our participants.
Great, thank you. It does seem like communication is intertwined with many skills. Whitley, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wrote down communication and professionalism to echo off of what Dustin had said. There is at times quite a communication gap in the styles of communication that I experience with some students. Some students, I'm like, wow, that was exactly what I was looking for. And then other students, there's definitely some growth. So that would be things that I would work on as well.
Very good, thank you. I know we kind of touched upon technical skills a little bit, but are there certifications and technical skills that you find most valuable for your entry-level hires? And any of you can comment on this one.
I'll chime in since I was just talking about that. And yeah, obviously there's a central role that technical skills or technical work, plays for students who do ORISE appointments. But as far as trends, I wouldn't say there's like a one specific certification or one specific skill set. What I kind of observe happening is there's a lot of kind of combination skill sets that employers are looking for, and in our case, internship sponsors. We see a lot of things where maybe they'll have like a base knowledge like biology that they bring to an appointment, but then the sponsor's also wanting some machine learning or some programming skill set, or even things that maybe intersect more with policy or like regulatory, understanding regulatory affairs or learning about that. So kind of this combination of skills is becoming more common, I think. You think about things like AI and how that's woven into everything now. So that's kind of my observation when it comes to how technical skills are evolving.
And do you put emphasis on certain certifications or online courses? Does that kind of impact your recruiting decisions and hiring?
For our appointments, just to answer that briefly, I don't think there's one common trend there. I think typically what you'll see is a sponsor will post an opportunity that they're just looking for the student has, some biology coursework and some, Python programming experience or some exposure to a programming language or, machine learning skill set or something like that. So it's more about just, again, having that base exposure that they can build upon in their internship or their fellowship.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the panel want to talk about technical skills and certifications?
I can speak to some certifications. So for healthcare, any patient-facing position, entry level all the way up, you're going to need your BLS, your basic life-saving certification. Most healthcare organizations will want that to be through the American Heart Association. If you do not have that, it's fine. We will put you through that course, but it's always just that added benefit if you already have it and it's still valid. Another one I was going to mention that I'm seeing more and more is just a translation certification for, really any different language that you might speak. If you are fluent, go ahead and get that certification so that you can be a translator. I know, we have different ways of doing it. I mean, sometimes we wheel the computer in the room, and that's how, we have someone that maybe is speaking a different language. We're able to communicate with them through that, but it's so much better if we have someone in person that can really sit there and talk with you face to face in your own language. It is something that we also do give an extra pay incentive for. So if you're already fluent, I would say for students, if that's something that you've done throughout high school and college and you've learned that language, go ahead and get that certification because it really can help.
That's a great tip. Thank you. Anyone else before we move on to the next question? No, okay. Ross, is there any questions in the chat box at this time that we want to ask?
I don't think there's any questions yet, Margie, so I would move on. And participants, please feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions of our panelists.
Okay, thank you. Well, I do have another question. So I'd like to know, what are some of the hiring practices that you have? Like, how do you recruit your employees? I know some of you have already mentioned that you offer internships entry level, but what's your kind of primary hiring practice? And Andrew, I'll just start with you.
Oh, so we're, as I mentioned earlier, we're not hiring students per se. They're doing internships, but ORISE recruits. We recruit nationally. I will throw our portal in the chat here. So it's pretty, our scope of recruiting is pretty broad, and so we sort of on a rotational basis try to make it to as many different campuses nationally as we can. And a lot of our sponsors that we work with, they may promote, to certain universities they work with as well. But really for us, a lot of it is virtual. So our Zenelect.com website that I threw in the chat, that's where all of our opportunities are posted. It's pretty easy for students to search and apply on there. And, we have lots of different types of opportunities because some of them are like your traditional summer internship, but then we have others that are kind of year round or even, after students graduate. So kind of different things that might fit for different folks. And really a lot of it is through our website. I'll throw another site that has web resources, but we have virtual recruiting events in addition to, coming to campus career fairs and things like that. So if you look on our events page on the other link that I'll add here in a minute, you'll see a combination of those things, what campuses we're going to be visiting, or, if we're hosting something virtual to promote a specific internship program or what have you.
And ORISE is really good about posting events and opportunities in Handshake. So that's another place where students can go. How
Yes,
about
and
you? Yeah, sorry.
I'll just add we have a listserv too that's really good for advisors, and I'll add that link as well. It's all kind of on that main link tree, but the contact sign up is a little hidden, so I'll add that to you.
That's great. And Andrew, you came out last fall? We had like an information table in Blunt Hall. So, so yeah, employers get that opportunity to come on campus and do some recruiting that way. Thank you. Dusty, do you want to speak next?
Yeah, so I'll start with the more fun recruiting measures, and then we'll talk about some of the tech that we use. But one of the things I really like to do, as you were just kind of speaking to, Margie, is getting on campus and particularly getting into classrooms. So I have a whole list of kind of services offered to classrooms and student organizations where, I'll come to a classroom and give the O'Reilly pitch for 3 to 5 minutes, right? But then the rest of the class period would be a presentation on, resumes, hiring practices, interviewing, whatever faculty may be interested in. So if any of you have classes or student organizations that could benefit from something like that, I think you'll get my contact information. Feel free to reach out and I can give you that list of kind of topics we can cover, because getting that face-to-face time student, I think, is my favorite way to recruit. Outside of that, because of the size of O'Reilly, we benefit a lot from just organic traffic to our career site, frankly. But our in-house recruiting team also uses LinkedIn Recruiter. And then I personally oversee our use of Handshake, and we utilize Handshake Premium to do targeted messaging campaigns for specific roles. And we'll use that for entry-level jobs and internships, of which we have many. Our corporate office has about 4,000 team members here in Springfield, and we've got more than 30 departments. So because of that, we consistently have roles open for entry-level talent across almost all majors. So lots of things that we're doing to reach out to students trying to get on campus. And typically we've got an opening for just about anyone at any given moment.
Great. Thanks, Dusty. Stephanie, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yep. So our recruiting is very fun. We definitely, I would say our main focus is getting into the classrooms. We do the career fairs. We do open interview days, like at our facilities. We also do lunch and learns, resume reviews, mock interviews, all of the things. So we are in Missouri, kind of all over Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. So our focus is really on those states and then, the border states. One thing that we've recently started to do, which I love, is actually having some career fairs for our internal caregivers. So if, you work at Mercy and maybe you're in an entry-level position, but you're very interested in maybe going back to school for nursing, for respiratory, billing and coding, whatever it is. We have these events with the recruiters and the leaders of that department available to kind of talk to you and help guide you how to get that process started. We also invite colleges that offer, all the different degree programs that might work for Mercy. And so they're able to make those connections with those schools. We also do have someone from our benefits team available to talk about loan forgiveness and tuition reimbursement. So that's really huge for us. We definitely like to promote from within. We like for our Mercy caregivers to be lifers, and we want to help you get there. We want to help you be whatever you want to be, and just kind of see you thrive. So that's something that we're very passionate about. We have in the past, pre-COVID, done a lot with high schools. That kind of has been halted because of COVID, but we have started being able to get back into the high schools this year and also have them come to us. So just a couple of weeks ago, we were able to host 2 high school career fairs, one at Mercy St. Louis and one at Mercy South, and that was so fun. The high school, I think it was sophomore to senior. Those kids are great. Just probably the most fun event that I've ever been to. So just kind of getting them before they make their career decision and letting them know, we're here to help you. So that's super fun for us. Again, just like Dustin had said, we use LinkedIn Recruiter also, definitely on Handshake and all of the different job boards. So that's how we do that. We do have some, organic just applicants dropping through, a lot of, word of mouth, a lot of people that have worked for us in the past that maybe went on to do travel or, stay home for a few years with their babies and they come back. So we have a pretty great applicant flow and hiring process.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. And Whitley.
Yeah, so our organization is quite a bit smaller than, I would say, O'Reilly and Mercy, and I would assume also ORISE. So we really focus on building partnerships with the students that come in and do their field work or come in for an internship. That's really big for us and where we find that we get a lot of our hires from. So really grateful for the departments at Missouri State that already partner with us. And if we can look on building more partnerships, that's certainly what we'd love to do. Like I mentioned earlier, our clinical services are the bulk of where our internships and opportunities kind of come from. And it's relatively new. So we're constantly looking to build, but we also, same with the other recruiters that are on the call, we use a lot of job boards, word of mouth, but those pipelines are really where we find a lot of success with our recruitment efforts.
Great. Thank you, Whitley. Ross, I did see a couple of comments come in. Do you want to go ahead and ask those questions?
Yeah, I am going to go ahead and read the questions aloud for recording purposes. So the first question, with communication being such a high value skill you each mentioned, and knowing there are many individuals here today who teach or advocate for academic curricular programs, what types of things do you believe could be done in coursework to incorporate strengthening those communication skills outside of traditional means?
I would love to touch on this one. So this, my prior intern from last summer, who is now a full-time team member as of last week, excitingly, he came from the IO Psychology grad program at Missouri State. And he and I bonded over the fact that we love to take in a lot of information and we love to share that information. And so we joke that the through line of his internship was understanding that just because we have 17 pages worth of information in our head doesn't mean that the person we're speaking to needs 17 pages of information, right? So I think what I did with him was to drive home the idea that what we're working on is our world, right? That's what we're doing every minute of every day. The person we're talking to, we may just need their input. We may be inviting them to something we're putting on. They just need the information that they need, right? So an exercise that we would go through is I would let him kind of nerd out and spew information at me because I love it too. And I said, great, that's how we talked about it. Now let's talk to an external stakeholder. What are your bullet points and how are you going to share with them what they need? So if there can be some role-playing scenarios where you have the academic outlook of what we've just learned, and then maybe a role play of now you need someone outside of your office to contribute in some way, how are you going to shape that message for them? And actually put them through their paces of identify the important things for an external stakeholder and what do they need to understand your ask and hopefully accept. We found a lot of success with that with our prior intern, who now obviously full-time team member, so it worked out pretty well. But that actually getting them to practice that, I think, is a big one.
That is great. Thanks, Dusty.
I was actually just chatting with somebody about communication, and they brought up the difference between generation styles as well, and figuring out how to blend both generations, because as employers, I think we need to lean to how the upcoming generation is communicating, but also how do we do that from a professional level and meet everybody in the middle where it's not LMK, what you're doing next, or like the different acronyms or different things. How can we blend the communication where they still feel like they get to be an individual, but also professional?
Very good. That's good. That is hard, trying to blend communication styles. Any other input on this?
I would just add, I think it looks very different for different majors. And so thinking about my own experience as an example, as I mentioned, studying history and anthropology, I got a lot of writing experience and a lot of, I think, critical thinking experience and those kind of things. But all my friends who were majors in the College of Business, they were doing a lot of team projects and they were doing presentations every week. And every major is very different in what they experience. So as far as the curriculum goes, just getting as much exposure to different things, different types of projects like, public speaking or not just writing reports, but different types of writing projects, geared towards different audiences. As much variety as possible, I think, is really, really important. And for me, I ended up getting a lot of that, through involvements outside of the classroom, things like student organizations where I learned how to like lead meetings and things like that. That again added some important variety to what I was doing in the classroom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Can you speak to the best way for a student to get language certified?
So I saw that comment, and how about I get some links and maybe I can send that to Margie and she can pass that on. Is that okay? I want to make sure that I send you the link to the one that most employers will use, or those that are really, nationally recognized.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
And then, is email etiquette a major concern that maybe we can work on with students?
I would say yes, absolutely. Perhaps email writing workshops, something like that would really be beneficial. That way they know, what to expect, how to communicate. I see my own high school son emailing his teachers, and I'm appalled at times. So it's definitely a generational thing, but since they are communicating with possible employers, educators, I think it's important for them to know. And we're not doing them any justice by not letting them know, by not informing them and educating them, because it is such a huge part of, communication in the workplace. Most of it is done, via email or chat.
Thank you.
And I think, Margie, that's all the questions we have in the chat so far.
Okay, very good. We will move forward. This is about networking. Any of you can chime in on this, but how important do you think networking is in your organization's like job market? How much influence is networking important for candidates to be doing, and what can we do as in a university setting to build those professional connections or help them build their professional connections?
I'm happy to kick us off on this one. So networking is still definitely helpful. Absolutely. Especially if it's done effectively. Unfortunately, I do think many students massively misunderstand what effective networking is. And frankly, I think most of that is because there is a terrible market of uninformed influencers on LinkedIn in particular. There's a lot of bad advice out there. So because of that, I think most people who work in talent acquisition or recruiting can say they get multiple messages a day from students they've never met or spoken to, asking directly for a referral or a coffee chat. That's unlikely to happen, and it's more likely to have a negative impact than a positive one. So when students ask about networking, mostly I want them to take advantage of networking opportunities that are already offered by schools or employers. Do things like interact with social media posts from recruiters on LinkedIn. It gets your name in their head. And typically, if you do want to reach out to a recruiter, do so after having applied to a role to show that you're serious about it. And have an ask, right? Have a reason you're reaching out to the recruiter. If you attach a resume and say, please let me know if there are any roles that are a fit for me, that's a terrible look. But these are things that students are being directly told to do by LinkedIn influencers. So from a college perspective, a university perspective, I would come to an event every week if it's just like, hey, come meet employers. Anything that you all can do to have sort of an official pathway to introduce employers and students, that's going to really be the most effective way.
That is great advice, because yes, I think with LinkedIn, it's really easy for them to just send a quick little note and think they're networking when they're really not really engaging yet. Any other insights from any of the other panelists?
I would just add, several of the folks here have mentioned using LinkedIn to recruit, and I've had recruiter roles in the past where I've also used it. So obviously it's really important. And I think there's a lot of networking, it really becomes a habit after a while. So helping students to understand that they're networking like every day when they're on campus. And that doesn't just include going and talking to employers when they're visiting or at a career fair or whatever, which as Dustin said, they absolutely should. But they can start just making it a habit to be on that platform, but and also to start accumulating those connections through all their friends that they're making on campus, and elsewhere in their life. I think it is really, that's a really helpful way for them to start flexing their muscles and just kind of participating in that space. I always tell students, download the LinkedIn app and like make it part of your. Everyone has a little circuit they do on their phone where they toggle between like 3 or 4 different apps, right? When they're bored, make LinkedIn part of your habit on your phone if you do those kind of things. So, those kind of things I think could be helpful to just get them start thinking about network as more of an ongoing thing rather than something they turn on and off when they need something.
Absolutely. And I think it's good that students think about even faculty and staff as being their network professional contacts. Any others?
I would say also, Marjorie, yes, I was going to mention, something that I tell students, and a practice that I've lived by my adult life is treating every interaction as a possible job interview, especially when you're at work and you're interacting with other people in different departments. You never know when your paths will cross professionally, and if they've got that impression of you, you're already a step above other applicants for that position. So, certainly when different departments are asking for help from your department, absolutely never saying that's not my job. Those types of things, just that professional, organic networking is just something that is so important, because we do oftentimes move up within our own organization. And that can just be such a huge benefit and step up for coworkers.
Thank you.
Hey, Margie, we have a couple more questions. This one, perhaps Stephanie or Dusty would like to take a stab at, but in what ways do you think your organization, company could benefit from hiring students who have studied aging gerontology?
Well, for healthcare, you're certainly going to see a lot of, aging patients. Everyone is aging, correct? So I think, understanding the difference in, the different ages, the different types of, just the patients that we see, it's you're going to want to treat someone that maybe is in their 70s, 80s different than, a peds patient, right? I think it is a skill that you have to adapt to in healthcare. Most of the time, I will say, when you're going for nursing, respiratory, PT, OT, speech, whatever the case is, you're doing your rotations, you're kind of getting a good idea of where you want to land. We have a lot of people that think they want to work with peds right away. Almost every new grad that I talk to that's going into nursing or therapy, they want to work with babies, which I understand that draw, right? We all love babies and they're so sweet and cute. But then after they do their rotations, they realize, you know what, I really do have a passion for, skilled nursing or for the aging community. And they really are wonderful. A lot of them end up, doing end of life care. So I think, you know, it's just a common thought that you're going to immediately do healthcare for babies, but it normally, once you get in and you are working with that population, you realize those aging patients are pretty awesome too, and they are great to work with and very satisfying.
And I'll take a stab as best I can at this one. So there's two kind of areas that come to mind where I think students who've studied aging and gerontology could have some unique insight. It's partially because of the size of O'Reilly. So we're at nearly 93,000 team members at this point. And the age of those team members run the gamut. And some have been here for quite a long time. The average the average length of time at the company for our field management teams is between 17 and 20 years. So they've not only in a certain age bracket, but they've done that with O'Reilly. So two areas that come to mind, we have a new talent management office. And that is figuring out where our folks with certain experiences can go and make the largest impact based on their experiences. And then we also have our team member experience team, which focuses on the individual experiences of individual team members. And obviously the needs and wants of a 22-year-old entry-level hire may be different than our 69, 75-year-old regional or district manager, right? So I'm not aware of positions like that existing at the moment. However, if those were areas that students with that background ended up in, I think that could be a really unique insight that could be super beneficial.
Thank you. Any other comments from either Whitley or Andrew on this one? No. Okay.
Okay. Next question. What are your favorite ways to connect with students? Are there interactions beyond the typical career fair that you enjoy most or find most beneficial?
I'll go again. I will say I do love a career fair. However, something that we do a lot is we try to get in to the school the night before the career fair with the health sciences program and maybe do a resume review and do some mock interviews. And we do a career fair readiness training so they know they kind of get their plan together, where they're going to go during the career fair, who they want to talk to, what their elevator pitch is going to be. And then we look over their resume, of course, and make sure that it's in tip-top shape to hand those off to employers that they're most interested in working with. And that's a really great way to connect with the students pre-career fair.
One thing that's really impactful for me as a recruiter is sometimes when I'm at a career fair and I've got a ton of people coming to my booth, it can be very overwhelming and you just get a lot of information. So for me, I love when a student reaches out to me with an effective, meaningful conversation, just to kind of follow up, to kind of go off what Dusty was saying with the effective style of networking. I think that's one thing that makes a difference for me and makes that student stick out to me and makes me want to engage and invest and help them move forward too.
Thank you.
Okay, and Margie, I don't have any other questions in the chat, so I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Okay, sounds good. The question I have, and this is just is open to any of you to answer, but how do you see like entry-level jobs or in your organization, the requirements evolving? And if they are, how can academic programs adapt to meet those industry needs? Or are there gaps that you see?
One thing that I will say with this question, I work with new grads daily, and something I'm always surprised by, although I shouldn't be at this point, is their unwillingness to working overnights and weekends. Of course, Mercy's Healthcare We are always open. We need somebody here 24/7. So I would think, that's something they would have thought about prior to entering, the program. But maybe they haven't, and they think of doctor's offices or something like that. But maybe having them do some shadowing even before they enter that program when they're in their prereq track, that might be good. And that might really help them get a good idea of what this position, what this job and this career is actually going to look like. And that way, they know what they're getting into. And if it's not for them, they know before they've wasted time and money.
Absolutely. That's good. Any others?
Just to speak to the trends a little bit, as much as possible, we're trying to practice skills-based hiring. So if you have the skills to be successful in the job we're hiring for, which means unless necessary, we won't have a degree requirement. That said, every job application is a competition against fellow job seekers. And it's a super tough job market at the moment, and students will get discouraged because, I meet all these requirements, I should be a shoe-in, but you may just be up against a super competitive applicant pool. So one of the things that I envision kind of helping students with is helping them really understand, one, kind of figure out their career path. What kind of roles are you really focusing on? And then just doing a really simple breakdown. Here are the things my target roles are looking for. And then maybe with the assistance of their academic programs, here are the things my program teaches and provides to me that match those requirements. Because there very well could be a student who is by far the best candidate for a job, but if that's not communicated on a resume, we're not going to call them, we're not going to interview them, they never got a chance. So yeah, really, I think to help the students have the best success in their job search, really breaking down, here's what the program provides, your academic program provides, here's what your typical jobs you go into with this major are looking for, and here's how those connect so that they can customize their documents, gives them the best chance of success. So yeah, just a little note there.
Thank you.
So a couple comments, and the first one, kind of taking off my ORISE hat and thinking back to some of the things I saw at UGA when I saw students connecting with employers. For a lot of opportunities, I think sometimes students think of an entry-level opportunity as like they can kind of onboard and they'll get a lot of training and in many cases that's true. But for a lot of organizations, it is very competitive and the bar has gotten higher, it seems, progressively in terms of what they're looking for, and really kind of a fully formed employee who's ready to contribute on day one. And if students, if they haven't done an internship, if they haven't done some of those things to kind of get them over that bar, then as Dustin was saying, they're going to fall short in a lot of cases. Going back to ORISE and our internships and some of the things you see in the STEM space. We talked about the technical skills, which obviously can play a role, but I think conflict management and kind of navigating issues as they come up sort of goes back to communication, but also that career and self-development competency. When they come in and they're working with a mentor, which is often the case in a STEM environment, whether that's on campus or in an internship, that's a very important relationship with someone who's mentoring you in terms of research skills. And so how do you navigate it when a conflict comes up? How do you kind of communicate effectively with that person to come up with like a development plan for yourself and to follow that through and to pivot it when one or both of you need to? So that piece is really tough, and it's something that I think most students learn kind of outside the classroom in those applied research settings or work settings. So that's something that when we do professional development, we spend a lot of time talking about that empowerment, conflict management, self-management piece.
Great. I think that's a development area that we all have to learn. And I know we have a certification and a program in that area, but yeah, sometimes you don't really practice it till you get in the field, unfortunately. we'd have about 5 minutes, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to give each of the panelists an opportunity. If you just want to briefly, if there's anything you would like to share today that you might not have had a chance to do, this is a great time to do it before we wrap things up. So I'll leave it up to you if you have something you'd like to mention.
I will try to do a super quick version of the pitch of our internship program. So if you're hearing today about the NACE competencies and you're going, wow, that's really cool, I've got some good news for you and your students. So the internship program at O'Reilly is completely based around NACE competencies. So our program is a formal 10-week summer internship program. Roles are full-time and paid. Students have their specific department they work in, but then they also have an average of 3 events per week, ranging from socials and networking to professional development sessions. All of our professional development sessions target at least one NACE competency. Last year, we saw an average growth per competency of between 9 and 13% across the summer, so that was really exciting. NACE also has 20 best practices for internship programs. We follow them all. And as far as conversion goes, from last summer, 62% of our interns are still with us in some way. So many of our internships for this coming summer have been filled, but we do have a few up still in areas like communications, IT, and inventory management. So as you're working with students, keep this in mind. Thanks, Margie.
Anyone else want to share anything real quick? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much to each of you for taking the time out today, sharing your perspectives and your experiences. We truly appreciate that. We do have, we will be sending up, or here we have the panelists' contact information and the career competencies. And I believe we'll be sending that information out too. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak incorrectly, but thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah. Thanks, Margie, for facilitating the panelist. Andrew, Dusty, Stephanie, and Whitley, thank you for taking your time away from your jobs to help us with our jobs. We really, really appreciate that. Makata members, thank you for being here. As always, Missouri State members, thank you for being here. I hope to see many of you again on Zoom on Thursday, May 8th, for our final advisor forum for the spring semester, Technology and Advising. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Bye.